Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Banderas. Happy Sunday, along with Charlie Hertz, Lisa Booth, and Tom Shalhoub, and welcome to the Big Sunday Show. The big story tonight, President Biden bracing for the impact of Hunter Biden's legal woes. Politico reporting the White House is scrambling to craft a strategy in response to possible criminal charges against his son, Hunter. But don't worry, President Biden, because he says he's proud of his boy.
Sir, there is something personal that's affecting you. Your son, while there's no ties to you, could be charged by your Department of Justice. How will that impact your presidency?
First of all, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him. And it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him.
Also this week, House Republicans will unveil new details surrounding the Biden family business dealings. Here's how House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer reacted earlier on Sunday Morning Futures.
This is not just about the president's son. This is about the entire Biden family, including the president of the United States. What they're looking at charging Hunter Biden on is a slap on the wrist. It's a drop in the bucket. So Wednesday will be a very big day for the American people in getting the facts presented to them so that they can know the truth. And then the Department of Justice can finally do what they should have done years ago.
And the mainstream media all of a sudden voicing their concerns about Biden's age. A new ABC News Washington Post poll finds 68% of people think Biden is too old for another term. Only 32% said he's sharp enough to be holding office, and only a third believe he is in good physical health. Interesting that the media is worried too.
Our brand new poll conducted with the Washington Post, it shows major challenges for President Biden. His approval rating's at 36%, a career low.
President Biden's got problems. I think the American people look at him and they just think he's too damn old.
These numbers and conversations I've had with voters certainly indicate that there's a lack of enthusiasm. There is a concern about President Biden's age.
Yes, there is a concern, although he didn't just enter his 80s. I believe he's been in his 80s, so this is really no surprise. Do you think Democrats are scared?
Well, that's why this is so weird. I mean, he's been the oldest president the entire time. Right. So, why the focus now on his age unless there's going to be some sort of coordinated attempt to oust him and get rid of him and bring someone new in? And that would really be the only way that Hunter Biden actually ends up facing any sort of serious charges if it's part of a broader effort to get rid of Joe Biden, because we've all seen what's happened under this administration. We've already seen an IRS whistleblower step forward and say that the Department of Justice has intervened in the Hunter Biden investigation. We know that we live in a system of two-tiered justice. We know that the Department of Justice and the FBI under Biden, they reward their friends, punish their enemies. We've seen them go after pro-lifers while letting pro-abortionists firebomb, churches and pregnancy centers without punishment. I mean, they sent the FBI in to raid Donald Trump while allowing Joe Biden to, search things himself initially, right? So, look, we live in a country where there really is no justice anymore, and conservatives get punished. So, we'll see what ends up happening with that. But I don't know. The age thing is weird, right? I mean, do we think that this is just an attempt to try to get rid of him now?
I don't know. So. I think they're probably a little worried, considering he didn't remember his trip to Ireland until he was reminded by a 4-year-old.
Sir, you were in Ireland recently.
Yes. Sir, you are currently in the White House. You are president. Maybe we should remind
Your name
of
is
that.
Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly.
And
your wife is not a doctor. Anyway, Politico comes out with this article. Let me read it. People close to Biden still worry about the personal toll it will take, and they wonder how long he can compartmentalize personal anger with the attacks on Hunter and the political calculation that he's better off not responding to it. He does not handle confrontational questions well. I believe as a politician, that should be like politics 101. When somebody asks you a question you don't like, don't get mad.
He does he has a little temper problem.
He gets really mad. I mean, do you know how many times he's probably wished for Peter Doocy's death? I mean, not literally. I don't
or how many fights he's offered to get into with people who asked him questions.
Dog-faced pony soldier.
Does not like it.
Listen up, fat.
The push-up contest?
Yeah.
But he's done well with the Hunter stuff because he keeps acting like he's, he is an offended parent. And that's the way the media, they let him get away with it. I think it was Stephanie Ruhle was the interviewer in that clip.
Yes.
She said, there's no connection to you. But will the Hunter thing be a problem? Of course there's a connection to him. Why is James Comer, I'm a little unclear as to why Comer's the only one who is getting up there talking about this, because I have seen the connections. I've seen the firsthand eyewitness testimony from Tony Bobolinsky. I've actually seen the written documents that tie him, that he is the quote-unquote big guy, that he was getting the 10% off the top. So he has a Biden crime family problem that they're not addressing. They keep talking about it like it's a Hunter problem.
I'm glad that you brought up the MSNBC interview, because this is what Rule says to him. Your son, she's talking about something personal affecting you. Your son, while there's no ties to you, could be charged by your Department of Justice. No ties. Okay, first of all, yes, he has ties to his son. He's his father. Number two, he is his confidant. We know that they have a very personal, close personal relationship. We do not yet know his ties to Burisma and Hunter sitting on that board. We also happen to know that Biden, and I'm talking about Hunter, was residing in Biden's house where all those classified documents were. And I would have to say that his car in the garage was not the only witness to probably most likely classified documents. So, I mean, we don't know that Biden is not attached to this, and I'm still wondering where that investigation is.
No, and kind of in a weird way, there's a way to listen to his answers to those non-question questions, the softball pillow fight questions, where it's almost like he's kind of throwing his son under the bus. It's like, oh no, he goes to defend Hunter. But like, as you point out, that's not the problem. Isn't that he lied on his gun form. The problem isn't that he was hiring hookers all over the place and doing blow in every hotel room that he could get into. The problem is that the family, the larger family, is running a corruption syndicate. And has all of these bribery problems with our biggest enemies. That's their. But the real thing that the media is worried about with Joe Biden has nothing to do with his age. It has to do with the fact that that same poll showed Donald Trump beating Joe Biden by 7 points. They are freaking out about that.
That's why the Democrats are now concerned about his age, because they don't know what else to go on. They're like, let's just go with the obvious.
And that's also why the media is worried about it. Because Joe Biden is Bruce Willis in the asteroid movie, where you send Bruce Willis to the asteroid to blow it up, and then Joe Biden has served his purpose. Yeah. They wanted to use him to get him out of the White House. Now that they're starting to realize that, oh my gosh, Donald Trump could get back into the White House because this guy is such a blithering buffoon.
I want to listen to the former White House senior advisor, Stephen Miller. He actually says that Attorney General Garland might have to be impeached over the Hunter Biden fiasco. Watch.
They're going to have to, in my view, pursue impeachment against the Attorney General of the United States if he does not fully cooperate and comply. And the context of that impeachment will give you enormous powers to bring people in for depositions and to compel discovery. And the courts will give the House enormous discretion to compel discovery and document production in the context of an impeachment.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what do you think, first of all, the Attorney General being impeached? I mean, there's a lot of conflict of interest when it comes to the Attorney General.
I mean, I'd love to get rid of him. I mean, like, if we're being... But this is also the guy that labeled parents as domestic terrorists, right? I mean, we are living in dark times.
I'm not going to lie. I know some moms.
No, but we're living in dark times as a country. I mean, when you lose the rule of law in a country, like, we're ceasing... We're no longer going to be a constitutional republic, right? Like, or you know, you had talked about the desire to get rid of Trump. I mean, look at what they're doing with all these investigations that he's facing. Criminal probe out of New York,
the larger point here
Georgia, probably federally.
You have clear crimes going on here, and by hauling Merrick Garland in front of the House, in the committees investigating this, what you're able to do is you're able to get to the bottom, get to the truth of these things, and he should be impeached. Yeah. This is appalling what this guy is overseeing and covering for.
But I wonder, though, you know. But there's so many issues that Americans, I mean, we're literally seeing the destruction of the country. I mean, you can't even get, you know, baby Tylenol or children's Tylenol, baby formula. So I wonder if this is what drives the needle for voters or independents to turn out. I don't know.
Remember yesterday? Oh, no, sorry.
Who shouldn't you impeach at this point? I mean, what the number? It's like the number of scandals that keep coming out, and then we had this thing. We knew that letter that was signed by the 50 intelligence operators was phony. Now we know Anthony Blinken was in on it, and all of these guys. I mean, they were trying to cover up this scandal so that their guy could get in the White House. It just boggles the mind, the number of people who are in on this thing.
Yeah.
And like you said, what are you going to do? Where do you start?
Well, yesterday, you remember we were talking about Biden and how he doesn't like all the negative news. So earmuffs, President. When you line him up to Trump, the numbers are pretty overwhelmingly in Biden's favor. That's not negative news. It's just fact. But I guess he doesn't like the facts unless it's positive in his corner.
Yeah, you want to see
another
tough
4
media
years.
questioning? Look at what Trump has to put
All right,
up with.
we got to go.
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting a hard rap. Pretty much they're going to hook me.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.